tell you actually where you're going. So you go from the retina, but you have to know where you're going in the tectum. Specifically, like Madison said, the superior colliculus. From there, tectopulvinar, we're going to the pulvinar, which is a cluster in the thalamus. From there, if we have gone to the medial pulvinar, we go to the parietal lobe. If the cells have gone to the lateral pulvinar, they go down to the temporal lobe. And that's the tectopulvinar pathway. Retina, tectum, thalamus, parietal lobe, or temporal lobe. More specifically, we go from the retina to the superior colliculi in the tectum, to the pulvinar in the thalamus, to the parietal lobe or the occipital lobe. Done. The other pathway is the lateral geniculate. That goes from the retina to the lateral geniculate nucleus in the what? I saw you saying, Nicole. In the thalamus, yes. In the thalamus. From there, it goes to the striate.
Is there another name for the lateral geniculate?
No.
Because it's not on the review, so I just was forgetting about it.
Geniculate striate.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah. Right? So geniculo, that's where it comes. That's where we get the lateral geniculate. Is that what you were asking, Nick?
No, I well, sort of, because it's like, I was just asking if it was the same thing, but then I realized it's a dumb question.
Okay. All right. No such thing as dumb questions. But, so we've gone from the retina to the lateral geniculate. That's where we get geniculo, nucleus in the thalamus. From there, we go to the striate. The striate means striped, and it's what the visual cortex looks like if you took a picture of it. So, we're going from the retina to the thalamus to the occipital cortex, one of our 4 lobes. The occipital cortex is the same thing as the striate cortex and the visual cortex. They're all the same thing. Okay? Everyone with me good so far?
Can you say that one more time? Sorry.
So we're going from the retina to the lateral geniculate nucleus in the thalamus to the striate cortex, which is the same thing as the visual cortex or the occipital cortex. Okay?
Okay.
If you need to know what that looks like, it's figure 9.11 in the slides.
9.11 in the slide. Okay. When we get to the visual cortex, we go to the primary visual cortex. The first place we're going is V1. All right? Makes sense. V1. Why would we go to V2, V3 first, right? We're going V1 is primary. In V1, we have blobs and we have interblobs. Blobs are responsible for processing what?
Memory?
No. Color. Dionisio, memory is the temporal lobe. The hippocampus is down there. We're not there yet. Okay? So, blobs, these little blobs, and think, Dionisio, when we're in the visual cortex. So, this is where I'm telling you guys, try not to just memorize, but think, does this make sense? Like, if I were to say to you, what is it responsible for processing? It's going to be some aspect of vision, right? We're in the visual cortex. So it's got to be something having to do with vision, okay?
Okay.
So we have blobs. If we look at a picture of V1, of the primary visual cortex, you see these little things that look like blobs. Those are starting to process color. So those are likely, think about this logically. Those are likely the cells coming from which photoreceptor? Yes. Cones, right? That's what it makes sense where they're going. So keep that in mind. That's where I'm telling you guys, think about how this makes sense. Okay, so we have the blobs are cones, and then the interblobs are responsible for processing form and motion or movement. From there, it goes right out to the areas right around it that are these secondary areas. They're also known as extrastriate areas. That's like V2 through V5. You don't need to know what the numbers are associated with. But now we have thin stripes, thick stripes, and we have pale zones. The thin stripes are responsible for processing what?
I will run back here if I find out.
Movement?
No.
Thin ones are Color.
Yes, thinner color. Thinner color. Madison, pale are for
Movement.
Form sensitive nouns, and the thick is for movement.
no, vice versa. Just switch what you
Uh,
the thick. Wait, the thick are movement or form?
I thought movement.
Is it movement?
Oh, I'm worried if you're not sure.
Wait,
You're the one giving the test, right?
I know I am. Wait,
Listen,
wait.
if I see that final, it is vice versa. I'm gonna get screwed.
Wait,
I'm bringing
Okay,
the
I
final
have
up to you, and I'll be like, you fill this out.
Wait, hold on. I have to just remember this. So thinnest color. Wait, thinnest color. Thick is
Advanced hydration, electrolytes.
Pale is form.
reduced
Did I not
fatigue,
say that?
Increased concentration, coconut water.
I
I
don't
said the
know.
opposite, but it's okay.
Yeah.
pale is form. I'm looking at my.
Pale
I'm
is
pulling
form.
it out for myself. Yes, pale is form. So thick is motion. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
looking
you.
at it. I'm looking at it on the.
I had to draw.
On the PowerPoint.
I had to draw it. I have to. I'm a visual learner. I had to draw it. Okay. So thin is color, thick is movement or motion. Then those pale zones are form.
Yep.
Now those form either a dorsal visual stream. Where's the dorsal visual stream going to? Which lobe?
The frontal lobe.
Not
Parietal.
the parietal. The parietal. So we're going, that was a good guess, Dionisio, but remember where your lobes are, right? So we have frontal up here, parietal here, occipital, and temporal. Temporal's down here. So from the visual cortex, if I'm going up, I'm going to the parietal lobe. From the visual cortex, if I'm going the ventral, where am I going to? What lobe?
Temporal.
Temporal. Yep, exactly. So you have a dorsal visual stream and you have a ventral visual stream. The dorsal visual stream tells me how or what, meaning it tells me how I interact with something. Because it's going to the parietal lobe, and the parietal lobe is responsible for spatial orientation. The ventral visual stream is the what, because Dionisio, before you were talking about memory, the primary memory structure in the brain is housed in the temporal lobe, which is the hippocampus. That's the what. So now, if I have injury to the what, I can't tell it what something is called. I can't recognize it. What is that called?
Hippocampus.
The hippocampus, yes, is the structure we're talking about. Very good. But what is that condition called when it's called not knowing, when I can't recognize something?
Agnosia.
Agnosia.
Apnosia.
And
Wait,
then
so it's pronounced apnosia, right?
ag.
Agnosia.
Agnosia. It means not knowing.
Okay, so that's gonna be hard because I got aphasia
Three
still in
different
my
kinds
head.
of them.
Aphasia, yeah, has to do with language.
Yeah, I know. They're both like
But you know-
similar.
They are. Whenever you have an A at the front of something, it means usually like a dysfunction in something. If you have dys, it means like not complete impairment, but when you have A at the front of something, like alexia or compared to dyslexia, like those are more suggestive of a greater level of impairment. Okay, what is it called when we have injury